Before we get to the show, I just wanted to thank our sponsors. One of them is bagyourselfabillboard.com, which is this new competition where you can own a billboard right here on Old Street for 2 weeks and get like 1 million online impressions on top of that. So it's super cool. I'm actually going to submit
it's super exciting.
an application for Silicon Reel. You just do a 60-second video. You tell why your startup is the best in the UK. They select one, and then you literally own this space for like 2 weeks. So it's cool. You know, we've had so many people on here that have great ideas and great tech, but you know, if you don't get the word out, it's hard to get that traction.
It's hard. So. Lots of noise to cut through. So
So that's cool. You should do it too.
Yeah. I think Lingos is going to do it.
Any small business or startup who's been around for less than 5 years, check that out. So bagyourselfabillboard.com, 60-second video. So do that.
That was here.
We rarely hear that because usually it's about how the Americans or the entrepreneurs, the risk takers, and in Britain is slowly coming around. Do you think it's the fact that there's so many, I guess, immigrants and so many different ideas coming through this city, and maybe also being at a university, that it just felt entrepreneurial, or why? Because I haven't had anyone else say that about London.
It was at the LSE, which is famous for having a lot of international students. This guy was an American from Philadelphia who was doing his PhD in mentoring, but he had floated a bunch of companies before. So he wasn't a British guy that I ran into, but it was an American who put the idea in my head, but it was at university. I think the universities do a tremendous service here at attracting absolutely top talent from all over the world and putting them into an ecosystem, an environment where you gel and you form the most amazing things. And I think the collision of different viewpoints and different worlds is really what has created a lot of the great companies that are around us. And also when you're at university, you're often open to suggestion and open to ideas because you're thinking about what the future might look like. And I think at university, it's really where I realized that we create the future. I don't think I'd really contemplated it, that all the businesses that were around me were created by people like you and I. Don't think I had that realization that it was us and people like us and us being everyone that creates companies because they're trying to create a better future, and they're slightly dissatisfied with whatever the status quo is. You've just given me a fantastic coffee, and you started up an amazing coffee company. And when we first talked, it was about the language company, which I love. What a beautiful global business. What a perfect one to base here in London. I mean, it really is perfect. And creating the market, which is what you're doing. I can't think of many other better places to do that. It's not going to be East Coast or West Coast here.
Sure, and it's such a natural fit for languages too in London as well. There's so many different backgrounds and cultures and languages and the history. I think it's a phenomenal place to start a business.
And you started it because you saw an opportunity, and you wanted to create a better future, and you could see a nice way of making that happen. I didn't have that realization that it was people who were slightly dissatisfied or saw a better way of doing things. I didn't get that everybody did that, but that is how our world has been created, and it was here in London that I had that realization, and it's what's made me certainly the person that I am.
What is the state of the union of London tech? It's changing so much. Even in the last year or 2 years. And Bloomberg said before he left office that he was looking at London as competition and not Silicon Valley. You're on the West Coast a lot. I was just wondering what you see, because you've been part of this ecosystem for so long. Where are we at? You said it's such a wonderful place to start a company, and where do we need to go to make it number one in the world? I say that kind of ashamed. Why should I say that ashamedly?
We should want to be number one in the world, and there's nothing stopping us. So where's the state of London tech? It's so much better than when I arrived 28 years ago. I can tell you that.
With you. Where was London tech 28 years ago?
Well, I went for my first my first financing. Strangely, was that the man who told me I was an entrepreneur. He finished his PhD, went back to the States, and 3 years later I started my company. And I went to him for funding. And I went, "Do you remember you told me I was an entrepreneur? Well, I think I am now. Can I have some money?" And he said yes, which was great. And then another was a fellow who had run some companies here. So there were two angels that funded my first company. The angel networks are very, very strong here. We are getting more and more serial entrepreneurs who are turning around and funding other companies. And I think that's really, that's really important part of the ecosystem. So people who have started up companies helping others, tread the same path is one of the things that creates the momentum and the velocity in the U.S.
And the PayPal effect that we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's coming along very, very nicely here. I think I made a couple of tweets earlier this week, sort of looking at different startups, and they were absolutely supported by. These ones were supported by Huddle, or the guys who had founded Huddle, which is great. And you're seeing more and more in that. You think of the syndicates that I'm being asked to participate in, and that I'm participating in. Most of them are serial angels or serial entrepreneurs who are also investing, at the same time and on the side, and that's really nice. VCs, I think we still got a ways to go on the VC community. One of the things that I've seen that I think is quite interesting is pairings of the big funds from the US with some of the small ECFs here, and that's quite nice. So a local VC will lead and set the pricing and do a lot of the corporate governance, but the reach will go into the U.S. because those guys will become part of the syndicate, and that's happens a lot, and it never ever used to happen. So the appetite that investors from elsewhere have to partner with some of our VCs is increasing, and I think they've seen some really good returns. Last FM was Greylock, and you see, Oaks come in and done a bunch of things. I don't want to go through names. I'm probably annoy people for forgetting someone, but that's happening with more regularity, and that's healthy because I think it increases the professionalism and of the VCs here, and allows all of us to increase our game. As an entrepreneur, it means that you have better access to deep networks and relationships that will help you commercialize whatever it is you have in the US and elsewhere, if and when you need to. And that's good, because if you only had local or regional VCs to draw upon, your networks and your ability to leverage your investors to the benefit of your company would be less. So I quite like that.